So I think continue to the next question. How does the pandemic impact your internal company? What has changed in terms of working in the new normal way? Just continue with you, Emerson. I mean, anything new
Yeah.
in terms of working from home or still working from home?
Yes. So you're referring to the Gigacover, right? What's
Yeah,
happening?
yeah. As a company.
So the fortunate thing is, and I think this is the case of most tech startups, we were pretty digital from day one. I mean, we had digital DNA from day one. And from day one, our engineering team was already based overseas in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh. So we were very used to working remotely. A lot of our work was done through calls, through video conferencing. So I would say that we were, pandemic ready. Our team was ready, more than ready, to be able to function just as effectively and productively, even during the pandemic. And I would say people in my company, even though we've given them an opportunity to come back to the office, in Singapore at least, it's a max of 5 people in our office, but no one has taken up the offer. Like, everybody prefers to stay at home. Commuting is a waste of time. Having to go into the office, scan a QR code, check in, register, take your temperature, all that is too much hassle. Right? They just prefer to stay at home. So productivity, no change. But what I think is different now is I haven't seen some of my staff for 6 months. And I think that's going to impact a team bonding quite a bit. So yeah, we're really looking forward to maybe, getting them out a bit more when, the government allows us to have, 10, 15 people gatherings, so then we can take them out for lunches or, just like happy hour drinks. So yeah, so not too much change for me.
If you can share, what are the top 3 tools that you've been using? I mean, don't mention Zoom, but because like that's like the more like how we communicate. But other than that, how do you have like any top 3 tools that you use to monitor your productivity or anything else?
Well, the top 3 tools we use, we're totally into the Google system. So Google Mail, Google Meets, Google Docs. And then for chat, we use Slack. For software engineering, we use Jira. Well, actually, no, for most of our task management, we use Jira. So in terms of tracking productivity, I mean, we can pretty much look at Jira tickets and see, how that has progressed. So I would say, we haven't really been impacted in terms of productivity. There's the tools we use, just a lot more video conferencing, a lot more calls. And, interestingly, I find that I'm actually working a bit more, and maybe this is the case for a lot of people too, with calls, because you don't have breaks in between your sessions. It's just, video conf after call after call. In the past you would have half an hour in between for commute, take a break, like your mind rests. But now, I might actually be working even more than before.
No, I mean, like, you're right about that, and I think there's definitely that I would say Zoom burnout, I guess, from several Zoom calls. And I think that's true, because like when you have a Zoom call, you have to keep focusing on the screen, right? And I guess that takes a toll as well.
I'm trying to schedule more in-person meetings nowadays, just a bit more, right? To get out the house, to get out the office.
So just to recap, probably like the first suite is the Google, right? Google.
Yep.
And then Slack, and then Jira. That will be your top 3 tools. Okay. Thank you, Emerson. How about you, Sunny? In terms of your company first, internal policies.
Yeah. So for us, it's been a boon. So every time you talk about, video assessment, video interview solutions, it's always seen as 2030, right? And I was on a meeting with PwC in Munich, and we were just discussing how the future just arrived. It accelerated the adoption of our kind of technologies. And just now you mentioned about Zoom burnout. How many calls you can take, right? Like, assuming you're hiring somebody, you can't interview 10 people. There will be a lot of challenges. You will not be able to be, there will be a lot of bias that gets introduced. There's a lot of problems with that. So it has accelerated us, and what we have seen is our team size has grown 3x during the pandemic. It just the kind of demand we are receiving is a lot more. Earlier in Asia, it was like, okay, I'm not comfortable with video, or I don't want to just talk to a camera. but now it's all gone. People, from a demand supply basis, what we've seen is that, earlier it was a employee driven market. Now it's again back to employer driven market. So the needs of the employee has superseded. So that's where tools like ours come in. If you look at LinkedIn, you're receiving 4x the number of applicants for a job. Even in Indonesia, I was just looking at a job for Tokopedia for a product manager. Within 4 hours, you're seeing 272 applications. So it's just crazy. So we are seeing a good adoption. In terms of our team strengths, as I mentioned, we had to hire aggressively. And the first 3 hires that we made had to be remotely because I was stuck in Germany. And we were working for three months without ever meeting in person. Only after my quarantine period went away, I could meet the team, and then we could talk face to face like how we used to. Before that, it was all Slack, Google Meet. We have our team meetings. We have our business development meetings, our daily stand-up meetings. So that's how we've been working so far. We are at WeWork now, so it's a WeWork Labs in Singapore. So what we're doing currently is Singapore doesn't have that many COVID cases, so a small portion of the workforce can come. So that rotation that I was talking about, we do that. So it's very good to brainstorm and ideate. So that's how we are doing, but bulk of the time they work people.
Okay, thank you. So you also use Google and also Slack, but you don't use Jira as software. Okay, all right. Thank you, Sunny. So Ardi will take the next 2 questions.
Okay, thank you, Arya. So before
Ardi, before you start with the questions, for the audience who wants to ask questions, you can ask questions on the chat. It's on the left bottom corner, and you can ask.
Or on the left top corner on the mobile phone.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
So we've got audience also as well from YouTube and Chakap application. So feel free to ask. So okay, the next question it's for Amerson. What are the trends in the gig economy?
Yes. So I would say 2 big trends, maybe 3. Right? So the first is, of course, as I mentioned earlier, a lot more workers have been entering the gig economy or the freelance economy or being self-employed. A lot of it is just due to retrenchment. Apart from just the natural trend of that economy, of that workforce, I think what has accelerated in the past 3-4 months is just retrenchment, right? So a lot more workers flooding the gig space. And then the second trend is a shift of work from certain industries to others, right? So some industries that were really hit hard, like transport, right? Completely zero, and people working from home or if they're under lockdown, there's just no movement of people, right? So for a while, I think in Singapore there were so few Grab, Gojek, taxi rides, and so those industries were hit pretty hard. Industries that had safety concerns, and also when there's a natural fall in demand. And many drivers, ride-hailing drivers, have also quit and decided to look for occupation, or rather for employment or income elsewhere. But that's the bad side, right? The good side is we're seeing a lot of other industries seeing increased demand, and food delivery is one, or delivery of anything, right? A lot more e-commerce is being done, so a lot more parcels need to be delivered. Cleaning, that's another big one. Security, any sort of teaching or classes online, right? That has seen a huge uptick. And even for other white collar kind of jobs, digital consultants, media, design, engineering, gig work, or what you might call in their case, short project work from a week to a couple of months instead of full-time employment. This is seeing huge increase. So Fiverr reported an increase. Upwork, a big platform, reported 50% increase in the number of jobs and projects being listed. And in demand. And that's also freelancer.com, and maybe a bit more closer to Southeast Asia would be something like Fastwork, right, which is a big in Thailand and Indonesia. So, one trend, a lot more workers coming in, right, competing for jobs, for work. Second trend, the work is increasing, but it's shifting from industries like transport, to other industries that are more digital friendly or that are more in demand. Now, there's one last trend that recently occurred, and I think those who are following the news may have read about this, and that's because of some of these changes to the gig economy and the workers feeling displaced, the concerns of how much protection gig workers can have or should have is being challenged in the US and the UK. So California wants Uber and Lyft to reclassify their drivers as employees instead of self-employed individuals. And that means they will get access to compulsory healthcare, compulsory insurance, legal protection, labor law protection, right? So that's sort of the third trend that I'm seeing, that in some countries the voice of the gig economy, the gig workforce is becoming stronger, and people are starting to take notice, right? So those would be the three trends that I see.
How about in Singapore? What do you see? I mean, are you you're working with Gojek, right, in Singapore?
Yeah, Gojek was our biggest marquee reference customer. We saw a decline in the number of rides in Gojek, and we saw that a lot of the Gojek drivers were joining Lala Move, Food Panda, Pickup, doing deliveries. So we also saw that shift in spending from Gojek transport, taxis to delivery, cleaning, security companies. So I would say, the trends I'm seeing worldwide are also applicable in Singapore, right? We onboarded, while everybody else was, maybe just trying to survive. We were lucky to be able to onboard Pickup, Food Panda, Homage, Orange Tea during the pandemic.
Oh, so starting from the maybe March, are you getting more partners?
Yes.
Than before.
I would say that we had started working with them before, but the pandemic accelerated a lot of what they wanted, right? The pandemic, made some decisions more urgent. Like, okay, I want my drivers to feel safe delivering parcels. I want my caregivers to feel safe, while they're doing their work, and I want the work to continue. Right, let's get them some Gigacover insurance. Let's get them some healthcare access, and that's how our sales will improve.
Okay, thank you, Emerson. Yep. So for Sunny, what are the trends in job hunting and interviewing?
So what we are saying when we talk about the job market, right? You look at a white collar space. Jobs have mostly dried up in the enterprise space. There are only few companies like Amazon who, with their Twilio, those kind of companies, right, still hiring and aggressively, because for some reason, the COVID is letting a lot of gamers come online, and the stats are going through the roof. But by and large, we've seen LinkedIn laid off around 1,000 employees because there were not enough sales happening. Recruiters are being laid off. I won't take names of companies, but in October, we met like 6 people in a company, and none of them are there. There were 18 people in a company. Now there are just 2 people. So we are seeing that companies are operating with lean recruitment teams. And with lean recruitment teams now, you don't have schedulers. You don't have people who are going to screen CVs. So then there is a demand for, how do I automate that whole, basic process of, interview screening, phone screening, and doing a check on basic years of experience, or whether they have the relevant skills, etc. So we are seeing that as a shift, and like I said, the number of applications per job has increased drastically. So those are some of the trends I'm seeing. Like Amerson pointed out, I think a lot of jobs will cease to exist, and that would lead to newer kind of jobs, right? So we saw a lot of temperature screening jobs just come up out of the blue, and then cleaning jobs, a lot of the blue collar work. So those were not there existing before. But there is a challenge. There is right now in Singapore, I think from a white collar workforce, a lot of employment pass holders were let go as well. And so I don't know how positive it would be in the near future in that space. But I think the focus right now is to get Singaporeans jobs, and that's where the government has created a lot of initiatives. We've also seen that in in the graduate space where you would almost have 100% of employment earlier. Now you're seeing that graduates don't have enough jobs out there. And this is not a trend just in Singapore, it's there in the US and in Europe as well. So now the government is supporting with say 80% of the salary they're supporting for a year. And they have come up with traineeship programs. So we have seen a lot of insurance companies, financial services companies hire all these recruits. So yeah, the positive, negative, I think the government has got a very good handle, I think, in Singapore. They follow process, they look at the map. So overall, yeah, it's heading in the positive direction, but things won't be the same.
Are you working with new employers? Because we see that there's a shift, right, from one industry to another industry, and one industry is laying off, but another one is recruiting. So are you getting more than you lose?
So it's interesting, the kind of industries which we never thought would be in our radar, right? When you go with a go-to-market plan, you think about services sector, for example. Hospitality was a big one when it comes to customer-facing roles, which we specialize on, because we kind of extract from a video interview using computer vision, natural language processing, and voice analytics skills like negotiation, persuasion, interpersonal skills, etc., which are great for a customer-facing job, sales jobs. But we were surprised that we're getting demands from the legal industry, for example, real estate industry, edutech industry. So this whole reskilling and people doing all these remote courses, those kind of companies are hiring a lot right now. So we are seeing those come up, and again, logistics, e-commerce, and like gaming companies as well. So these are right now they are hiring. So we are seeing a lot of demand, and I think our focus is on the mid-market segment, because there are a lot of companies with just they got a Series B funding before the COVID struck, and they are on a hiring spree. This is one of the best times to hire if you have the budget, if you have the money. The one learning we had from the last financial crisis was this is the time you get all the talent you want, and you have readily available talent, which wouldn't be in the market if the COVID wasn't there. So that's on the positive side.
Okay, thank you, Sunny.
So the next question is for Amerson. What does the economic security mean for the future worker, and if insurance risk correlates with credit risk and vice versa?